Enough is enough. The Gen Z uprising has become the heartbeat of Africa.
Hello, and welcome to Voice of Africa. Today we turn our focus to Tanzania, a country long celebrated as a symbol of peace and stability in East Africa, now facing one of its most testing moments in recent years. What was meant to be a celebration of democracy has instead ignited widespread unrest, grounding flights, halting trade, and shaking the very foundations of the nation's calm reputation. Following the general elections held on October 29, 2025, Tanzania's political atmosphere changed overnight. What began as joyful gatherings in some regions quickly transformed into scenes of anger and disbelief in others. The declaration of President Samia Suluhu Hassan's victory with over 97% of the vote was met with outrage from opposition supporters, who viewed the outcome as unrealistic and unfair. The main opposition party, CHADEMA, denounced the results as a political coup, insisting that the people's will had been ignored. Their leader, Tundu Lissu, had been imprisoned months before the elections under charges of treason, a move many saw as an effort to weaken opposition voices. With several members barred from participating or detained, critics said the vote lacked genuine competition. What followed was a wave of protests that spread across major cities and towns. From Dar es Salaam to Arusha, and from Mwanza to Dodoma, the usually calm streets were filled with demonstrators calling for justice and transparency. According to reports from human rights monitors, dozens lost their lives in clashes between civilians and security forces, while hundreds were injured. The opposition claimed the number of casualties was far higher than officially acknowledged. In a national address, President Samia Suluhu Hassan congratulated Tanzanians on what she described as a peaceful and transparent election. She thanked citizens for their patience and urged unity across political lines. However, the situation on the ground painted a very different picture. The government imposed a national curfew, deployed security forces across major regions, and restricted internet services, saying the measures were necessary to protect national stability. These decisions, while intended to restore order, further isolated the population and deepened frustration. Families struggled to reach loved ones, journalists faced barriers to reporting, and communication between regions became increasingly difficult. The atmosphere grew tense as citizens felt cut off from the rest of the world. The post-election crisis soon extended beyond politics and began affecting Tanzania's economy. Julius Nyerere International Airport in Dar es Salaam, the country's busiest gateway, saw major disruptions. Several airlines halted operations, citing safety risks and mobility challenges. Similar shutdowns occurred at Kilimanjaro, Arusha, and Zanzibar airports, where stranded passengers waited for updates that never seemed to come.
Hundreds of passengers were stranded at Tanzanian airports this weekend after President Samia Suluhu Hassan largely won the country's disputed election. Domestic flights were all cancelled, and some international travelers were unable to retrieve flight details due to unavailability of internet.
Tanzania's tourism sector, one of the pillars of its economy, was among the hardest hit. Safari operators suspended trips, while hotels in key destinations like Arusha and Moshi reported mass cancellations. On the island of Zanzibar, tourists found themselves trapped as ferry and flight services were temporarily suspended. The once bustling tourism scene came to a sudden stop, threatening thousands of jobs and small businesses that depend on visitors. Foreign missions and international observers expressed concern over the deteriorating conditions. Some advised their citizens to delay travel to Tanzania, citing shortages of essential goods, disrupted transport, and safety concerns. With fuel deliveries delayed and markets closed early due to curfews, food and basic supplies began to run low. Long lines formed at petrol stations, supermarkets struggled to restock, and cash shortages became common in urban areas. The unrest also struck at the heart of Tanzania's trade and transport network. cargo operations at the port of Dar es Salaam slowed down as movement became restricted. The flow of goods across the country was interrupted, causing shortages in several regions. Public transportation was reduced drastically, and fuel scarcity further strained logistics. The Tanzanian shilling began to weaken in regional exchanges as traders and investors worried about prolonged instability. CHADEMA continued to reject the results, calling the elections a performance, not a democratic process. The party's spokesperson accused the authorities of manipulating every stage of the vote, from candidate registration to ballot counting. According to the opposition, the process lacked credibility and fairness. On the other hand, the ruling CCM party maintained that the results reflected the genuine will of the Tanzanian people. Government representatives accused the opposition of spreading falsehoods and inciting violence, insisting that stability and unity were the nation's top priorities. Amid these political tensions, the human cost continued to grow. Families were divided by curfews, students missed classes, hospitals faced shortages of essential medicine, and traders struggled to reach markets. Entire communities were left in uncertainty as the crisis deepened. Human rights organizations called on the authorities to respect civil liberties and open dialogue with the opposition to prevent further loss of life. The African Union and the East African Community both urged restraint and encouraged peaceful dialogue, emphasizing that Tanzania's peace and stability are vital to the region. The crisis in Tanzania carries implications beyond its borders. Neighboring nations such as Kenya, Uganda, and Rwanda depend heavily on Tanzanian trade routes for goods, fuel, and tourism traffic. The closure of key airports and the slowing of border crossings at Namanga and Rusumo have disrupted regional supply chains, causing delays and shortages in several parts of East Africa. A particularly worrying aspect of the crisis has been the communication blackout. Internet shutdowns and blocked access to social media platforms have made it difficult for citizens to share information or organize peacefully. The flow of verified news has been severely limited, leaving many to rely on word of mouth in a time of confusion and fear. The restrictions have also hindered humanitarian coordination and affected safety for travelers trying to navigate curfews and protests. Observers described this digital silence as one of the most severe information blockades in Tanzania's recent history. In an age when digital access is a lifeline, many believe this has deepened the emotional toll of the unrest. Still, even in moments of darkness, people across Tanzania continue to call for transparency, peace, and reform. The situation remains delicate. The government has expressed openness to dialogue, but insists that protests must first stop. Meanwhile, the opposition demands accountability before any talks can begin. International mediators are quietly working to help both sides find common ground, hoping to prevent further escalation. The coming weeks will be crucial in determining whether Tanzania moves toward reconciliation or deeper division. For now, uncertainty still hangs over the country. Thousands remain stranded due to suspended flights, and movement between regions remains limited. Airlines are offering rebookings and refunds, but reaching airports has proven difficult under the tight restrictions. Many embassies continue to advise caution, urging travelers and residents to remain indoors until the situation improves. Tanzania stands at a defining moment in its history. Its people are known for resilience, discipline, and unity, values that have guided the nation since independence. As the country navigates this political storm, those same values will be key to restoring peace and rebuilding trust. The crisis has shown that democracy is not only about holding elections, but also about preserving confidence in the system that governs them. Once that confidence is shaken, rebuilding it becomes a long and difficult task. Across Africa, the situation in Tanzania serves as a reminder that progress without dialogue is fragile, and peace without fairness can be easily broken. Yet within every challenge lies the opportunity for renewal. Many Tanzanians, including religious leaders, activists, and ordinary citizens, are calling for reconciliation and reform, determined to see their nation rise again. Every country has its own journey, its own struggles, and its own way forward. What defines the future is not how deep the crisis runs, but how courageously a nation rebuilds after it. Tanzania's story is not over. Its people, proud, hopeful, and determined, still hold the power to write the next chapter with wisdom and unity. At Voice of Africa, we will continue to follow this developing story, bringing you verified information, context, and voices from the ground. May peace return to the land of Kilimanjaro and Zanzibar. May its people heal, and may its democracy emerge stronger than before. Thank you for watching Voice of Africa. If you found this report informative, please like this video so YouTube recommends it to more viewers across Africa. Subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications for more stories told through African eyes. Until next time, stay hopeful, stay united, and let's continue to believe in Africa's strength and future.